and welcome back to InFocus for this special series on innovation. In the first few episodes of this special series of innovation, we've been looking at innovation in the home loan space. But in this episode, partnered by LoanQ, we're finding out what's been happening in the asset finance and personal lending space too. To unpack how and why brokers can use better technology to make their businesses more efficient when dealing with personal and asset finance loans, we're delighted to welcome Scott Juda, the Head of Distribution at LoanQ. Thank you very much for joining us, Scott. How are you going?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here and walking us through some of the innovations that are happening in the personal lending and asset finance space. Now, I think we all know it's been a very busy period for everyone, regardless of where you are in the country, regardless of the types of loans you're writing, whether it's mortgages or asset finance or personal loans, commercial loans, everybody has been absolutely flat out. And as Victoria and New South Wales prepare for the summer rush and ease out of lockdowns, we're expecting it to be a really busy period coming ahead as well. What is asset finance and personal lending typically like this time of year?
So typically this time of year is very busy, especially in the lead up to the holiday season. There's a lot of things like run out sales for cars. Probably not going to see as much of that this year with the low stock with impacts of COVID. But in the personal lending space, we usually see a lot more spending. People splurging a little, but also into the new year, a lot of people are, after they're taking their breaks, taking holidays, also look at consolidating some of their debt. So they take their New Year's resolutions, and it might be getting hold of their finances, make sure they get back in control.
Yeah.
So this time of year is actually extremely busy, and the other busy time of year is most likely the end of financial year.
Yeah.
So they're probably the two busiest peak periods of asset finance and personal lending.
That's a good point about the cars. We all know anyone trying to buy a car this year.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Whether it's first-hand,
Yep.
second-hand, it's very, very difficult to find cars. But I know that everyone now is desperate for that new car for
100%.
Christmas. So definitely a lot of demand there. And as you said, leading up to the holiday period, lots of grandparents spoiling their grandkids and parents sort of looking at buying presents for everyone, especially now you're all coming out of lockdown. We haven't seen anyone for so long. People feeling especially generous, I think, this year. So looking at taking out maybe a personal loan to share that wealth. And as you say, then in December, consolidating some of that debt as well.
Well, the other part as well, coming out of lockdowns and borders opening up, I think we're going to see a big uplift in holiday spending as well. So leading into January, as things start to settle down a bit more, I think we're going to see a lot more there too.
Really interesting. And I think when we talk about, asset finance and personal loans, there seems to be a lot of sort of focus really on the asset finance space at the moment, but maybe not so much on personal lending. And I want to just ask you a little bit around, in your experience, what sort of things do we see in the broker space for asset finance and personal lending?
So it's funny you say that, because a lot of the finance in Australia, only about 44% of all finance is for mortgages. There's probably about 27 odd percent that's in personal finance, so your personal loans, credit cards and things like that. So there's a large portion there, but majority of brokers concentrate on mortgages. About 87% of all loans written by brokers are for mortgages. So we don't actually see a lot of volume from brokers. Speaking to a lot of brokers as we're building LoanQ, a lot of the apprehension for writing asset finance or personal loans was the low payoff. So they could get more revenue out of a mortgage than what they saw for asset finance or personal loans, especially with the compliance burden. There's decentralized information, so there's no one place that was helping them assist actually writing asset finance and personal loans.
Yeah.
So there was a big gap in the market there.
That's a big one, isn't it? Because I think obviously so many people say, especially with the best interest duty for credit now for mortgage brokers, sort of saying, well, there's so much more administration and note taking and so much more explanation of the deals that I need to do. So it makes sense for a home loan where you've got those much bigger figures to be putting in the time and getting that reward. Whereas a lot of people, as you say, might think, well, actually for a personal loan, I'm still having to do a lot of, administrative sort of work, and for a much, much smaller level if it's only a $5,000 loan, for example. But it does seem that time of writing a loan seems to be ever increasing as we have more compliance and more paperwork coming on. And I just wonder, what are the traditional pain points specifically when it comes to asset and personal loan writing?
I think there's a lot of misconception there, especially around the value for the time input. So yes, for consumer asset finance, there is the same BID or NCCP requirements for a car loan or a personal loan for a consumer as there is for a home loan. Although the process is faster, you don't need to capture quite as much detail. The recommendation, because you're writing a smaller loan over a shorter period of time, doesn't need as much depth in the best interest requirements as well. You still obviously need to write the best loan for the client, but it's not as onerous as it is for mortgages because the loans are obviously significantly larger over a significantly longer period of time. So you can actually turn around asset finance and personal loans much faster, where you have potentially same day settlements or next day, where a mortgage you might be sitting there for 6, 8, 10 weeks or more. There's clawbacks and things like that. So there's a lot of other challenges there for mortgages that you don't quite get for asset finance. So if you actually weigh up the time invested for an asset finance or personal loan deal compared to a mortgage, I beg to differ that asset finance and personal loans are actually more lucrative for your time invested than for mortgages. They all work, and I think we need to look at holistic delivery of products for clients, not just sort of narrowing the channel just to be a mortgage broker or just to be a finance broker. I think over the next couple of years we're going to see more diversification in this space because the tools are now being developed to assist brokers make that a lot easier.
Yes, and of course we are always talking about diversification and delighting clients in more ways than one, and having a sort of solution for whatever they might need, whether or not you're actually writing it yourself or finding someone to refer it to or using a platform to be able to do that. I realise we've been talking about asset finance here, but I haven't clarified what we're talking about. This is consumer asset finance rather than business asset finance, is that right?
Well, it's actually all of it. So we can do consumer asset finance, commercial and personal loans as well.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking at the moment.
So we've heard a lot here around how it's already a painful process in terms of administration for actually sometimes writing asset finance and personal loans historically, but this is where I think the innovation aspect comes in. So how does LoanQ actually aim to disrupt and innovate this space?
So we're aiming to disrupt or innovate the space for brokers. So that's one thing I really want to emphasise. There's a lot of fintechs that are looking to disrupt the finance space to take business from brokers, where we're the fintech in their pocket. So we're here for the broker. So we're making the tools to make the broker's life easy. So we've created guided flows. So it's a standardised data collection process. Whether they're doing a commercial or consumer asset finance or personal loan, they're following the same guided flow that, based on their input, is going to determine what the next questions will be with our decision engine that we built in the back. So what we're doing is presenting the broker or dealer, whatever it may be, with the most appropriate options for that case. So the broker's not really having to go out and research each lender and their website individually and try and figure out from rate cards or BDMs and harassing people to try and figure out whether the loan may or may not fit. So we're actually ruling that out for them in the process. If the loan fits, basically they go through and complete the rest of the application. And again, it's the same standardised flow around data modelling. So it's not that they're having a different experience every lender that they're trying to submit a loan with.
Okay, so they can actually follow this process and then it kind of gets them into a narrower pool of who they can use.
Correct. So our decision engine will give precise lender and product recommendations for the broker to utilise.
Wow. So what kind of things will they need to do in that flow?
So it's just capturing basic information that you'd normally get. So if they're looking to buy new or used, if it's a personal loan or a commercial, so we start to narrow down from the beginning. So what's the customer doing? So who is the customer first? Are they a consumer or are they a business? So is it consumer or commercial? And then narrow down, is it a personal loan? Is it asset finance? If it's an asset finance, whether it's a boat, car, whatever it might be, we narrow down then whether it's new or used. We use glasses integration as well to pull up asset prices where they're available. And then go through the rest. So what's the term, the balloon, the loan amount, etc. So we start to narrow down precise product and lender selection for the broker.
Okay, and so once they get to that stage, obviously they're talking to the client around, well, we've got this option here. How do they then kind of go ahead and process that loan?
So what they can do is we automatically produce the compliance documents for them. So we'll produce the credit quote, privacy. It can automatically be sent for e-sign. So there's no manual printing of any documents. Everything's pulled from the input from the broker. Once they do that, they can continue through the rest of the application process, collecting assets, liabilities, income expenses, so forth, and we'll get through to the finance proposal section, make sure the loan services They can capture all their compliance information, the recommendation they've made to the client, do their 3 product comparisons or whatever they need to do, select the appropriate product, and where possible, lodge directly to the lender without having to go through their submission gateways and things like that as well.
Okay, wow, so they can do it all through the platform.
Process start to finish.
Amazing. And so I guess that would, in effect, I imagine, save time and energy and costs. Do you have any sort of ideas of the sort of time savings?
So we've had brokers able to do loans within 20 minutes.
Wow. So a real time saving that.
It's significant. So it's not just about the time saving, it's about the frustration as well of having to do multiple quotes through multiple lender platforms and things like that as well.
Yeah, and of course that saving time saves money because it's your time and your money. So we've talked about LoanQ there. I wonder how else are you working to help innovate and provide better efficiencies for brokers?
So we've got a new product called Webline Queue that I'm super excited about. So Webline Queue is a web plugin for brokers and dealerships that can plug into their websites or the websites of their referring partners or business partners as well, which is to supercharge their lead gen. So basically it's a lead generation tool that's going to take clients through a guided flow to help meet their needs. Now this will be for consumer and commercial asset finance, personal loans, and home loans.
Ooh, so it's a widget, it sounds like, that kind of embeds into a broker's website, for example?
100%. And what that's doing is that's going to start to capture, again, the same information, so what the client's looking to achieve, and narrow down a product and lenders to suit their needs. So there's been a lot of brokers that have been trying to build similar tools for years and spending a lot of money. So they can do this with no capital investment and plug it into their website, ready to go in about 20 minutes.
Okay, wow. So it means that the consumer going to Joe Blogg's Home Loans can go onto this little tool, the LoanQ tool, and say, hey, Joe Blogg's Home Loans, I need a home loan, an asset finance or a personal loan, do all the sort of steps that they would have done with their broker anyway, and then the broker just sort of gets notified, I'm assuming, once that's all been completed, or how does that
Yeah, correct. So they'll go through the process and we'll present some lending options to them as well. The client will pick most likely the cheapest option. And then they can go through the application process as well, which is also open banking ready. So we've actually got open banking data collection there as well to simplify the process even further. But we also support, that some clients won't want to use open banking just yet because we're a bit ahead of the market there, and go through the manual process. It is slightly longer, but we do support that too. Once the client's finished, they'll be able to upload all their supporting documents as well. And this will go push through to the broker to then be able to contact the client and complete the application in a much faster time frame.
Okay, and that's when they can do all their best interest duty things as well, talking to the client,
100%.
making sure it works, and it's not just about
Correct,
rate. Yeah.
correct. Yeah, so rate will be one thing that clients are always naturally going to gravitate towards, but like we know, there's a lot more to lending than just rates. The other great thing about LoanQ is it's supported with QR codes as well. So, for example, you could have a QR code with your real estate agents at their open homes, on their billboards, on their flyers, business cards. Car dealerships could have it on the windscreen of cars as well, so a client could actually sit there on their mobile phone, scan the QR code, and do the application on their phone. So WebLoanQ and LoanQ are both supported on any device.
Okay, wow.
So you can even be at a family barbecue or out one night and talking to someone and do an asset finance or personal loan deal on your phone from start to finish.
Wow, it's interesting. So for a broker, how do they get involved with that? Is there, is it a subscription? Is it a cost? Like, how does that work?
So WebLoanQ's got a low monthly subscription fee. So again, we want to deliver the product to brokers as cheap as we can, just to make sure we're keeping the costs low, that they can generate as much business as they can. There'll be some third-party costs for open banking and things like that, but e-signatures are all built in to that costing as well.
And is that available now?
Sure is.
Oh, that's exciting. So yeah, I guess it means that there's not just personal asset finance then that you can use, but also the home loan element too.
Correct. So WebLoanQ we've built in a strategic partnership with Sales Tracker. So Sales Tracker aggregators will be the first cabs off the rank to be able to utilise those tools, and then hopefully the broader market as well.
Oh, interesting. Great. Now, looking forward, I think, obviously this November is our innovation month on The Advisor, and you might have already seen the Innovation Supplement Innovation Station, which is up online and is a supplement with the main magazine too. And we're asking everybody for this month, well, what does innovation actually mean to you? Because it's slightly different to everybody.
Yep.
So for you, Scott, what does innovation mean?
Look, for me personally, it's challenging the status quo. I think we can get complacent with the systems and processes we have in place, but I like to try to see if we can solve the problems of tomorrow today. So I think in the next 3 months, 6 months, if we can start to solve problems and implement solutions now that brokers are going to start to roll on to within 6 to 12 months, that's my idea of innovation, because I don't think there's a lot of point in trying to solve today's problems now, because it's going to take time to build that. So we need to be ahead of where the industry is going to be and be ready for that change and actually be at the forefront of change.
So if anyone wants to find out more about Webline Queue or LoanQ, who should they contact? Where should they go?
Just contact us on our website, loanq.com.au.
Well, thank you so much for all of that, Scott. And do make sure you check out that website to find out more about LoanQ and what they are innovating in the asset finance and personal lending space. And thank you all for tuning in for this very special episode of the InFocus Innovation Series partnered by LoanQ. If you've got any questions for me, then do feel free to email them in. You can reach me at editor@theadvisor.com.au. And do stay tuned for more episodes in this InFocus Innovation Series. I hope you all stay safe and well, and we'll see you soon.